Hey everybody, Moto here. Dawned on me when I was editing my last video that talking about the GP races in Europe, that I'd even mentioned Jeffery Herlings, who is the reigning MXGP 450 class champion. Well, Jeffrey broke his heel prior to the beginning of the season in a practice crash, but he had to have surgery, and his Facebook or Instagram, I can't remember which one I read, said he just got the stitches out, and this was about 5 days ago. He had just gotten the stitches out, and he can't put pressure on it for 6 more weeks, so looks like he's probably going to miss at least the first couple of months, the first 8 rounds, and that's a shame, man, because that dude is fast. His nickname is the Bullet, and I don't know if it's because he's faster than a speeding bullet or if he's one of the few Europeans who is good at charging through the pack when he has to. And that kind of brings me to the topic of this video, which is a little bit about the GPs. Most Americans don't follow the GPs. They don't follow them as closely as I do. And I've been following the GPs since I was a kid, getting cycle news in the old dirt bike magazines. I want to talk a little bit about what happens in the GPs and the European, I say the European rounds, it's a global thing now. They race all over the globe. They race in South America, Indonesia, Turkey. They have GPs everywhere now. When I was a kid, it was pretty much confined to Europe, and the United States had its 500 GP every summer. But one of the big differences between American motocross and the GPs is that motocross is a much bigger sport, especially in Europe, than it is in America. The motocross stars over there are truly sports stars. If you were to go to a sports bar during a basketball game or a football game with all these people who call themselves sports fans and ask them who Ricky Carmichael was, I'd be willing to wager that if you asked 10 people, none of them would know who Ricky Carmichael was. Or James Stewart or Ryan Villapoto. Some of them might know who Ryan Dungey is because they saw him on the Wheaties box, but other than that, no. Motocross is not a mainstream sport in America. It started looking like it was going to climb up to that status with the NBC package, but the Lucas Oil, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, Lucas Oil, Outdoor Nationals are no longer going to be carried or affiliated with NBC through NBC itself or through Peacock, its streaming subsidiary. Americans are stick and ball people. There are very few true sports fans in the United States. They watch baseball, football, basketball, some of them watch hockey, and they call themselves sports fans, but they're just stick and ball sports fans. They know nothing about any other sports. Here in America, everything's done on Saturday. They start with the practice and timed practice, qualifying laps, and that's how the gate pick for the first moto is chosen, whoever has the fastest time. Then the second moto, gate picks are based on finishing position in the first moto. In the GPs, on Saturday, they have qualifying races, and everyone has to race in the qualifying races, and that's how your gate pick is determined, and it doesn't change in the second moto based on your first moto finish. Moto 1 and Moto 2 are both based on your qualifying, how you did in your qualifying races. At the GPs, the pits aren't called the pits, they're called the paddock. So when you hear them talk about the paddock, that is what they're talking about. On TV right now in the United States, the only broadcasting that I'm aware of the GPs is on CBS Sports Network, and they don't show the first moto, they just show highlights of it, and then they show the whole second moto. Yeah, I wish they'd show them both, but it's pretty decent coverage. It's not as good as American coverage. They don't have all the angles, but it's not bad. And former, I think Paul Malin was a 125 world champion, I believe. He's from Great Britain, but he does the announcing all by himself, and he does a really good job. He's very into it, very up to speed. He doesn't miss much, and I really like listening to him. In America, the outdoor season is 12 races. In the GPs, it's 20. But they don't have Supercross to contend with. So it's a 20-race series. This year, the Russian round, which was the first weekend of May, has been canceled. And they've added a date at the end of August with a to be determined where it's going to be held to make up for the Russian GP. And then the Motocross of Nations, which is like the Olympics of motocross, is going to be held right here in the United States this year at Redbud Track and Trail in Buchanan, Michigan. And that will be on September 25th. And I spoke a little bit talking about Jeffery Herlings being able to charge through the pack and do well. And there are a couple of riders who were pretty good at that. But there seem to be more riders in America. Even some of the guys that aren't generally top 10 guys are pretty good at coming from dead last to first turn false to catch up to, 15th or whatever, get up into the points. And in Europe, you just don't see that very much. Even some of the fast guys, when they get behind for some reason, whether they fell or a bad start or whatever, they tend not to make up many positions. And I don't know. It's just weird. Herlings isn't like that. Tim Geiger isn't like that. Those guys can slam through the pack and get there. But even great Antonio Caroli, the 9-time world champion, got back in the pack. He seemed to have a hard time catching back up. If he was in the top 10, if he was in 10th place, he was actually pretty good at getting up to the front. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a GP thing or what. Speaking of Antonio Caroli, he is from Italy. He spent his career on Yamahas and KTMs. He won the MX2 title twice, and he won the MXGP title 7 times. And he raced for 17 years and won at least one race every year he raced up until last year when he was 36 or 37. He won a race last year, but he retired. Awesome. He was a great guy to watch. He was an awesome rider. It was so cool to watch him ride. He was so fast. He had a hard time beating some of the younger guys over the last couple of years, but he could still do it, and he could certainly keep up. Last year he was injured and didn't hit all the races, but he still had a good year winning a race, and I'm happy for his retirement, and I hope he is successful in whatever happens, whatever he decides to do after racing. All right, I'm going to go over some of the top riders. And right now, since we've only had one race this year, I'll hit the guys who finished in the top 5 in each class, in the MX2, which is their 250 class, and MXGP, which is their 450 class. The guys who finished in the top 5 in both classes are the heavy hitters. As I said, Herlings is out with an injury, or he would certainly have been in there. Herlings won the MX2 title 3 times and is a 2-time MXGP champion and the reigning champion from last year, as I said earlier. And if it weren't for a few ill-timed injuries over the last few years, he would certainly have a couple more championships at least. Okay, so the first rider I'm going to talk about is Tim Geiger. Tim Geiger is from Slovenia. He rides for the factory Honda HRC team, and he was the MX2 world champion in 2015 and the MXGP champion in 2016, 2019 and 2020, and he came within a hair's breadth of winning it last year. It was a 3-way battle. It went down to the very last moto between Jeffery Herlings, Tim Geiger, and Roland Van Der Mosdar. Next is Jorge Prado. Jorge Prado is from Spain. He rides a gas. He's one of the guys that used to ride a KTM, but now he's on a gas. Prado was the 2018 and 2019 MX2 champion, and he had a pretty good year last year, but he is a whole shot artist. He whole shot almost every race last year, and he whole shot almost every race when he was riding in the MX2 class. Next is Jeremy Seaworth. Jeremy Seaworth is from Switzerland, and he rides a Yamaha. He was second in the MXGP class in 2019 and 2020, and he was 4th last year. He looked really good at Matterley Basin, even though he had a couple of fluky little falls that cost him some positions, but he still looks pretty good. The 4th rider is Maxime Renault. Maxime Renault is the reigning MX2 champion, but he moved up to the 450 class this year, and he's doing very well. He is from France, and he rides a Yamaha. He's a very strong rider, and one of those guys that seems to get stronger as the moto goes on. 5th was a rider named Glenn Koldenhoff. Glenn Koldenhoff is from the Netherlands, and he rides a Yamaha. His best finish in the World Championship was in 2019. He finished third. But in the 2019 Motocross of Nations that I spoke about earlier, the little Olympics of Motocross, the way that works is every country sends 3 riders. They pick 3 riders to represent their country. In 2019, it was Glenn Kolanoff, Jefferey Herlings, and Calvin Valandrin. Calvin Valandrin, and what they do is they have 3 races with between both 3 classes, but that you can ride 250s or 450s, and it's considered the MX2, the MXGP in the open class, but neither here nor there. But Valandrin was their 250 rider, and he was injured in the first race. He didn't even get to race his second race, and it ended up just being Kolanoff and Herlings, and Kolanoff won both of his motos. Herlings, I can't remember how he finished. I think he may have won both of his motos, and the Netherlands, with only 2 riders, ended up winning the Motocross of Nations, and it was in America, and we had our finest there that year, and they got their asses kicked. I think we finished 5th that year. We haven't done well in the Motocross of Nations in a long time, and that's because the GP riders, Europeans, take motocross much more seriously than Americans do. Okay, in the 250 class, as I said, the reigning champion is Maxime Renault, who has moved up to the 450, so he's not part of that anymore. Simone Langenfelder from Germany. He rides a gas, and he was 17th in his rookie year last year in the GPs. But he came out swinging this year, won both motos convincingly, not by a mile, but Tom Bial couldn't get around him. And he really, really looks good. These guys better get their act together this year. Tom Bial, I'm pretty sure in my last video I said that he was one of the guys that was riding the gas, but he's not. He's still on a KTM. He was the 2020 MX2 champion. He had an okay year last year. I think he finished second last year. I didn't remember. I didn't look it up. But he's from France, and definitely somebody to look out for, and he's another hole shot artist. He's very good on starts. Jago Geerts is from Belgium, and he rides a Yamaha. And he has been a consistent top 5 guy over the last few years. He looked good at Matterley Basin. He was strong at the end and was giving everybody a battle. Kaida Wolf, he is from the Netherlands. He's 17. This is his second year, and he was finished 4th in the World Championships last year and was the Rookie of the Year in the 250 class. And looked pretty good the other day. The thing about it, he's consistent. He doesn't fall down a lot. He stays on 2 wheels. 5th, Roland Van Der Mosdar. He is from the Netherlands as well. He rides a Husqvarna. He finished 17th in 2021. His best year was 2020. He finished 7th in the championships. He's a little on the inconsistent side. So, I don't know. He looked pretty good the other day, but we'll see. One of the other heavy hitters that had a bad day at Matterley Basin is Mattia Guadagnini. He is from Italy, another gas rider. He was 4th in the championships in 2021. He won a couple of GPs. I don't know what was going on with him the other day. It's another thing about watching the GPs. Their coverage isn't as comprehensive as America, where they have people down on the track and people in the pits and other people reporting on things. It's all Paul Malin. He's trying to keep up with the racing, so he doesn't have the staff to keep him up on what may or may not have happened with another rider. So anyway, that is a primer on GP racing and the differences between how they race the GPs and what they do in the outdoors here in America. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments below. Shoot me an email at motopoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content. We'll see you all later.